Hey, welcome to the Gutencast. According to all the metrics that I'm looking at, everything's working, and that's all a man can really ask for. So, thanks for being here tonight. If there are any problems, by all means, leave a comment in the chat. But so far, so good. Tonight is going to be really fun. We are on a time limit though, because one of our guests, he's got a short leash, and he needs to be off. He needs to be off on time. He can't respond right now, so I'm having fun. Um, sorry about that. Very unprofessional. So, but we're all authors. We're all writers. Darby Kern is also he writes audio plays. I'm not really sure. What would you call it exactly, real quick, Darby? Audio dramas. Yeah. Okay. Hey, this is the technology worked for me. So audio dramas. I would love to do a movie sometime. I think that would be awesome to do. Hasn't really pulled together. For me, when I write a book, when I have an idea or a thought or story come into my mind, it actually is visual. Like I can see it like a movie in my head, and we'll talk about this more as we go on. And a lot of the writing part is actually just me trying to capture in words what I'm seeing in my head. So I think that I could probably do a pretty good movie. Although obviously there's just a lot of other components when you're directing and whatnot that I would have to learn. Maybe I couldn't direct the movie, but I would love to be part of the artistic presentation of it. And to me, I think this raises questions like in my own mind. I think people often when they if they think about reality at all and try to make sense of it, and a lot of times it's easy just to get into the flow of life and not think about the deep things. Um, but it's really easy to only try to explain certain small things, to give an account for the obvious things. And here we have this thing about humans that is like everywhere, right? We Movies are everywhere, books are everywhere, stories are everywhere. You can even like at the political level, the people who put together political campaigns, right? They create stories for people, and love them or hate them. Uh, when they tried to kill Trump, he immediately turned it into a story, right? The picture was everywhere. I mean, the guy is like he's an expert, and all those people are experts. But it can only work. It only works if the people that they're applying this to are already predisposed somehow to receive it. And that to me begs an explanation. Like, what is it about reality? What is it about people that has us resonate in such ways? So what would be maybe some possibilities? Well, one of the views that are common out there, which I'll just kind of get this out of the way so we can get our guests in here. The other view is, we're all just from dirt. We are lately emerged from pond slop. We are some sort of dirt cell that got lucky or something. Um, and here we are, survival of the fittest. But where exactly does the story element come in? So today, what I did was I went around um, my house, and I played a story on my phone for some of the residents of my farm to see how they would react to story. and to see if we could come up with some common explanations for our common ancestry. So let me just play this, and I freely admit the production value on this. It's not high. It's kind of lame, to tell you the truth, but I had fun, and by golly, that's what this podcast is about. So let's just play the video here. So why do humans care so much about stories? Why do narratives move people, shape people, motivate them, make them sad, have the power to inspire them? And essentially, we make stories out of everything, almost as if we have to. It's like one of our primal needs. So I was thinking about this, and it occurred to me that since we're evolved, of course, that we should be able to find some precursors to in the animal kingdom of how much they also care about stories. So I decided to go around my farm here and come up and share a story that was on our podcast recently with some of the creatures that are on my farm, and inquire of them, did this story move you? And we're going to try to really track down the materialistic Darwinian roots of the power of story for the humans, because it must be something that exists in all creatures, right? I don't know, maybe. So here we go. This is again, this is a story that was on a recent podcast. You will probably want, if you want to hear that story, actually find that podcast or the clip that we made of it. So first, we're going to start with my dog.
So we had a young man that was interested in being a music major at our university,
So-
and we have one of the top
So,
maybe
Pike, what do you
5
think?
sacred music programs in the nation, maybe even
He looks
the
interested.
top
You
10
look
in the
interested,
world.
buddy.
And we have incredible faculty, incredible facilities,
Hang with us here,
amazing
buddy.
students who are really gifted in music, and sacred music
Pike.
is key to this. And
Hmm.
so I'm sitting in. It's a family that comes through on a
I don't know.
weekend,
He
and
seems
I
to be
personally
completely
went down to the campus
uninterested
to
in
meet
the
them on a
story.
tour because the campus was technically closed. I had notified a couple of our music professors who agreed to meet me over in the music building so I could, serendipitously meet them.
He's being very
and
attentive,
with
though.
The student. It was,
Oh,
I kind of joked like it was serendipitous,
Oh.
but they all knew it was planned. Anyway,
Mhm.
we walk in, and then one of our professors, who's our music historian, and he's a very
Oh,
gifted
he just wanted the
organist
food.
musician himself
Ah,
as well.
okay,
down
well,
with
that's
this
one of
young
the
man.
higher
And
organizations,
I'll call the
organisms that we
young
have
man
on
Jake,
this
except not
farm.
his actual name.
But
And I just
dogs are
kind
not
of
known
fly
for
on the
being
wall, and I
terribly
sit and
bright.
listen to this conversation.
So
And he says, "So Jacob,
I went
you're
looking
interested
for
in
a creature
maybe
here
being a
that
church musician?"
really
Jacob says,
seems
"Yes."
to pay attention to the
He says,
TV.
"Well, do you like
So it must be
children,
because
Jacob?"
they like stories.
And he's like, "Where are you going with this?" And Jacob goes, "Well, I guess so. I mean, I help out. His dad was a pastor, and I help out. In
I think
our
she's
church
interested.
with Sunday school.
I think
and
she's
VBS
interested.
and things like that." And he says, "Well,
What do
let
you
me
think
tell you
about
a
this story?
Jacob." So
Oh,
this is a story within a story
hmm.
within the story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you a story, Jacob,
Um,
of what a church musician does.
I'm thinking that
A
maybe you
church
don't
musician has the
care so
incredible
much
honor
about
of
this
being
story.
one of the first people in the church
Hmm.
to teach the stories of God's word.
So it seems to
young
be more
people
interested
through song.
with about
And song
food
is a great gift from
than
God.
the
and when
story.
you accompany great stories with great music, it's very memorable.
I mean, maybe
and
it's
it
a
sticks
language
and it
barrier.
lasts.
I don't know.
And that child goes home and begins to sing that song on the playground.
So
and to
the
his or
problem with
her
invoking
parents and
evolution
siblings and
is
others,
I've
and
noticed
does
that
not even realize
evolutionists
that
only
he
try
or
to
she is
explain the easy
proclaiming
things,
the
relatively
gospel
speaking.
and the stories
Something
of
like
God's love to all
actually
the people around.
complicated and problematic,
And then
like
you
why
teach
people
that
care
child
about
more
stories.
songs, and as the child grows,
You don't
eventually
they don't
that
even
child
think about it.
becomes
So
a
I thought
parent.
let's go
And you know
even
what that
more
parent
primal.
does, Jacob?
Here's my
That
bird.
parent teaches the stories and the songs that
What do you think of
taught
this story,
him or
Charlie?
her.
Listen.
And one day, Jacob, that child is no longer a child, but is elderly and is on his
Charlie,
deathbed. And he's struggling to even remember the names
like
of
you
his
don't even
loved ones.
care.
But you know what he remembers sometimes even with his
Nothing.
last breath, Jacob? He remembers
So
the
as I was saying,
stories that you shared in
evolutionists
those
try to
songs
explain
in
the
his
easy things.
childhood.
Like
And
they're really
sometimes
satisfied
they're
if
the last words on his lips before God
a
calls him
moth
home.
changes its colors,
Now,
even though like
that's a
the
story, you
DNA for
know.
the different
And he
colors were
says,
always
and that,
present.
Jacob, is what a church
They don't
musician
really try
is.
to explain anything
So
really
I was ready to quit
difficult.
my job and
Ask them
re-enroll in
about
undergrad and go
abiogenesis.
back
They'll
and
just
become a musician.
wave it
And
away,
what I loved about
right?
that, though,
They
was
don't think there's
this is
anything
an example of a
um,
professor at our university
provocative about
who
the other
knows
viewpoint
exactly the
or
stories that
empirical,
matter, the biblical
like
accounts that matter to us,
biogenesis, the thing that
knows
is
what the
actually
story of
observed
our institution, of why
100% of
we
the
matter
time in
and
every
why we
instance without
exist,
exception.
and is able
That
to even
doesn't matter to
frame it
them at
in
all.
terms of a story that talks
Anyway,
about what it looks
so I
like to
started thinking maybe
graduate
we
from
need
our
to go even more
institution, take
basic.
what
So
you learned,
I played
and
the
bring it
same
out to a family
story
or a young person or something like that.
to the
And
wildlife
and those matter.
on
And
my
what's cool to
property.
me is the really high
I
impact
thought
mission-minded entities
this monarch
don't just
butterfly
tell
might
one story.
be
They have a
profoundly
tapestry
moved.
of
Let's
stories that
see.
all point to the biblical stories, right? It's not just rote
What do you think,
memorization,
Monarch?
saying the same one over and over
What
and
do you
over again,
think?
but you hear different people telling different stories that all
Do you
kind of
feel
point
moved,
to the
butterfly?
master stories. And
Do you feel like
I
you
think
want to
that's really
take on
compelling.
the
I think
world?
that's powerful. I think it's one of the more powerful ways
Are
to
you strengthened
maintain
with your
a
resolve?
mission-minded organization.
Are you moved to tears, butterfly?
So did Jacob enter the program?
You know,
Have
he
whole political
actually did
movements
not,
been
but I think
empowered
I have a
by
chance. I
any
can't
stories that
believe
you
that after
know,
that story. How do you
butterfly?
not, right? But
Right. God,
I actually
completely
talked
ignored me.
to
So I don't know.
his parent.
I didn't have any
Actually
monkeys
recently,
available. I think that
and
would
I
be
have a feeling that
the
he might be
opposite direction
visiting
to go.
campus sometime this year. So
But
maybe we have another
apparently,
chance.
it seems that humans are the only ones that care about story, and I just isn't it curious?
Yep.
I mean,
Here-
where is
we're-
that
we are
encoded
coming
in the
back.
genome?
Yeah.
Or let me put it another way: where exactly is the empirically demonstrable survival
Yeah.
benefit of
So
the human need for story? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know. Too bad there's not enough inquiring minds. All right, so I mean, I told you it was lame, and it was actually a lot longer than I thought. Man, I talk too much. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna blame my guest. It was Dr. Bernard Bull for telling such a long story, require me to come up with critters from my property. It was really difficult to film. I was gonna do the Japanese beetles also, but it just didn't work. So I think this is a valid question that I'm asking here, and I don't think we're gonna focus on it too much when I bring my guests in. But I really don't like Darwinian explanations. I kind of find them disgusting and stupid. So I probably won't be able to resist not going after them on occasion. But enough about all of that. Let's get our guests in here. Holy cats! What a long, stupid intro. My fault, gentlemen. Hey, how you doing?
How's it going?
Yeah.
hello.
Hey, thanks for keeping me entertained while I was listening to myself. It's kind
Yeah.
of hard
That's a
to
good looking
do.
dog you got, man.
It is. I like that.
He did a really good job of actually sitting still for that.
Yep, I lost you, Tony.
Oh, you lost me? Sorry.
Yep, can't hear you. Yeah, there you go.
I'm back. Yeah, sorry. I muted the wrong thing. I muted myself,
Mhm.
which probably would have been the best for the podcast in the long term. I mean, actually, but
Were you trying to mute us?
Yeah.
well, no, the way the technology is, if you must know, I have your audio coming in from two separate streams. So I kind of mute one or the other based on, how I'm interacting with you, if you must know. Yeah. So when I have my Jamie, I can't wait to have my own Jamie. That's not, that kind of stuff won't happen. So anyway, these are my guests. We've got Darby Kern. I told you he does the audio drama. We also published one of his books, Wounded Blue, which is I think it's a good story, but it's raw, right? It's not like a feel good kind of thing. It has its redemptions, but I think that actually kind of probably plays into some of the points we'll make in tonight's podcast. And Cely, man, how many books have we done for you now?
About 4 or 5, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, it's getting up there.
It's been it is.
I mean, you throw a rock and Rob writes a book.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can find all of our books, including my own, on gutenbookpress.com. The link's in the description along with all the other stuff. And I'm sorry, guys, I once again failed to put direct links to your stuff in the description. So, but they can find it through Good Book Press. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I think to start with, let's go with Darby first, then Rob. What did you think about the point I was trying to bring out in that stupid video?
Well,
focus on the point, not the video.
I thought the whole thing was adorable to begin with.
Okay.
It was a good looking dog. It's funny because, your point is that humans are the only ones who really have this storytelling gift or need. Actually, it's more of a need.
Yeah.
And, I mentioned to you before the show that, in say Disney culture, everything is anthropomorphized, pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, I don't see a conspiracy of the evolutionists to do that. It's just, they're putting something out that, oh, look, the dog is talking. It's a story about raccoons and which is not a problem. But, my dad was always worried that these things desensitized us to certain things. And, he was maybe a bit reactionary. But, maybe the anthropomorphism, if I said that right that time,
very nice.
Goes back to the biblical story of Balaam and his donkey. So who knows?
Okay.
Are you saying Balaam's donkey was the first Disney character, first Disney animal that were there?
First Disney princess, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So, we don't know.
Okay, Rob. What do you think?
Well, I think I really like the point you made in the video, and when I get to thinking about it, the Darwinian materialistic explanation is they're really good at like describing like a process after the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
Like after watching, I decided to look up, what did the evolutionists say about the origin of story, and they had a lot to say about the benefits that story could have imparted to a tribe or an individual storyteller, but they couldn't tell anything about the origin of it itself.
Right.
And they seem to be stymied about the creative process, period. I mean, they can't really talk about, the origin of story. The science, at least the last time I looked, wasn't real clear at all about, how storytellers come up with stories individually.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the biggest problems evolutionists have is those creative acts, namely the creation of life and the creation of the universe. I mean, they're really great at explaining how things could have developed then, but they've still got that glaring issue of, how did it get started in the first place?
Right.
And for that, the scenarios, they have scenarios, but nothing coming close to what you'd call evidence, or at least what I would feel is a legitimate argument
for people that present themselves as being like thoroughly drenched in raw empirical demonstrable fact, backed by experimental support. It's sort of lacking on all of the really interesting things.
Oh yeah, absolutely lacking. Yeah, and I don't know. I just wonder what the empiricist tells himself at night. That there was no empirical data for the origin of life, and
right.
Yet here we are.
Yeah, go ahead, Darby. I can tell you want to say something.
Well, I was going to say I'm a big Michael Crichton fan, and if you read Jurassic Park, he talks or watch the movies. They deal with it there too. There's a lot of evolutionary thought that's put into it. It all boils down to, the evolutionary worldview, Darwinian worldview, with the whole story. But in another book, one of his later books called State of Fear, which he wrote, it's not one of my favorites because you can tell he's got an axe to grind through the whole thing. And it's about global warming, or environmentalism and all that stuff, and most of global warming. And he's kind of laying the wood to the idea as much as he can. But he, in his afterword, the afterword to a book that I didn't like is really good. And he talks about how the book is about politicized science, not necessarily, global warming per se. And he talks about that very eloquently, and it's a great afterword. I mean, I don't read the book, just read the afterword. But there's as he's talking about that, I'm thinking about all the politicized science that he probably didn't have a problem with. And the way evolution is taught in schools, and other things. He wrote early in his career, wrote a book about abortion and how it was a very safe thing. And I think they wear blinders sometimes. I'm still a fan of the guy because I like his writing, but you can tell. I mean, he needed the Lord, but he had blinders on to some things, and where you agree with him. And he got himself into a lot of trouble with some crowds in this one direction. He kind of went along with it all in another direction.
Yeah. So it is hard to find anyone, a materialist, like tackles what essentially is a fundamental immaterialism at the heart of the human experience, right? But one of the examples that jumps into my mind is Richard Dawkins in his book The God Delusion, where he describes religious belief, because he's trying to figure out, what's the evolutionary advantage. In his mind, everything has to be seen through that reductionist prism, right? He's made that prison for himself, so he has to find places on the prison wall for everything. It all has to fit there. He has nowhere else to go with it. And his explanation is that, it must have provided an evolutionary function. He talks about that. But the ultimate answer is that it was a misfire of the brain that has now been co-opted. He's talking about religious belief, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this epistemological poison pill at the heart of that argument. How does Richard Dawkins not know that he and his atheism, that's the misfire of the brain, right? You can't tell the difference. And so my takeaway from something like that, and a lot of people equate religion with mythology, and which is storytelling, right? It's the same instinct. They see people as just, they have to explain it away, and what I want to do is explain it, which is different, right? Find the worldview in which something that presents itself as very robust and powerful in our experience, and has an answer for it. And all three of us are of the mind that is Christianity, and I'm not really sure of any other world religion that even tries to or has such a natural explanation for the narrative nature of the human experience. I don't know, maybe you do.
I don't know of any. I think they probably just will fall back on whatever their name for God is, creating it, but without an actual creation story.
Yeah.
Which maybe we've cornered the market on that. Ours is pretty good.
Well, I've never heard of anyone talking about how Allah was very inspiring for, coming up with cool stories, right? I mean,
yeah.
I just haven't heard that anywhere. So,
well,
go ahead, Rob.
I have heard of C.S. Lewis when he talked about mythology. He said,
fair point. Yeah.
He says when he looks at stories, good stories, he says he felt the Greek story was a more interesting, maybe more creative story than the Christian story. And he said that the Norse one was even more creative than that. But his angle was like, I don't think this was a made up story, because if it was made up, there's a lot better stories out there. You know, you've got more deities. You've got, humans being able to, interact with gods on different levels, and just, heroes and giant, all that cool stuff. But, he was talking about it doesn't seem to be a process of the creative imagination.
Right.
But the one that I think of, that I always go back to, that, the materialistic explanation, for religion and all this that we've created is Freud's, his kind of mythic patricide. That's where religion came from. It wasn't a misfire of the brain. It was a guy, two brothers killing their dad.
Yeah.
And then this guilt with the patricide. Then they invented the story of the gods, and that's where we get it all from.
Yeah, a little hard to document, but interesting.
Pretty hard, and yeah. Ripping off Cain and Abel maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Well, steal from the best.
That's right.
Yeah. So how about let me start refocus this just a little bit, and we'll come back to these themes. But Darby, how did you come up? Like, what was the inspiration, or how did that work for your audio drama series? Like, how did that begin to form in your mind?
Well, it's kind of funny because, and I've been talking a little bit about this lately, and trying to think back, and it was not an idea that sprang to me fully formed. I had a mental picture of a man running across a frozen lake in a blizzard, and I just sort of was thinking about it, like, and I don't remember if I was falling asleep, if I was walking the dog, or what was going on, but I just thought, okay, what's the story? Why would somebody end up there, and what's the end result of this? And then I started doing just watching some videos and listening to podcasts about UFOs and stuff was coming up. Gary Bates wrote a book that I really appreciated about UFOs and its connection to demonic things and the occult, and I just started exploring that, and really it just sort of grew in a very organic way. And then it was and I didn't know if I was going to try to write a comic book, write a movie script, write an audio drama, write a novel for it. I really didn't know. And the more I came up with ideas and things, it became, so big that I would never be able to sell a movie script of it, because it would cost $100 million to shoot this movie. And back when $100 million was a lot of money to shoot a movie. But I kept making it as big as I could, and bigger and bigger and bigger, and more action driven. And I just really ran out of budget for a movie. Not that I ever had money, but that, nobody was going to spend money on something like that. But I had a background in audio drama. I'd been writing scripts for Left Behind and some other shows, and just thought, okay, I know this medium. Why don't I give it a try? So then it kind of, I started really taking it seriously, creating characters, laying a framework for the first story, and then what the rest of it was going to be. And the question I asked was, okay, what should a Christian think about blank? And UFOs, aliens, vampires, zombies, all the stuff that was and is big in popular culture. And we talked a little bit about this last week, but I just kind of kept building from there. And I found a group of people who thought it was a cool idea, and we found a way to get the first one produced. And
so when you were like fleshing this out, like how much of it was like you sat there and like strained for the connective plot point to get you from one scene to the other, and how much of it just sort of flowed like for me, I said it's like watching a movie and then converting
Yeah.
it into words. Like, what's it like for you?
Yeah, it's different for each scene sometimes, but most of the time, I find writing to be a very difficult thing, and but I enjoy it. That's the worst part. Maybe there's a strange form of masochism there, but I enjoy solving the problems of a story.
Sure.
And sometimes I do it well, and sometimes I don't do it well at all, which my friends always remind me of. But I just some ideas just really come together, and some of them I really have to work on. It's funny because we had the first 4 stories for the Jake Muller Adventures fairly plotted out, and I decided after we recorded the 3rd one and started production on it and post production, that before we did the 4th one, we needed another story to kind of bridge some things, and I wanted some character twists in it too. And I thought, okay, what's that going to be about? And I just on the board back there, if you can read it, I have my original ideas, like one-word ideas, and I don't think it's even up there. But I was just thinking about social engineering and how that's going on in such a subtle and horrible way in some regards, and how we're, society is just being shaped by all this. In that case, strangely, the story fell into place very quickly, and I don't mean to suggest it's inspired like the Bible is inspired. Never that. Not for me, that's for sure. But it came together in a way that I thought, okay, the Lord has given me ideas here, and with that comes a responsibility. So I have to do this. That's a long answer to a simple question.
Yeah. So much for I'm just gonna sit and listen.
Shall we close in prayer? Okay.
All right, Rob, your turn. Same question.
Well, it's kind of I guess similar process. Start out with something, something small, but at the same time completely unasked for. I remember the one that stands out the most is the tamarisk tree, which published book 1 a few years ago, and hopefully we'll have book 2 ready by the by mid late fall this year. And it's a story about it's a world that's in total ecological ruin. It's become like a desert wasteland, and the only way people can grow food is through the use of magic. And there's this rumor and suspicion going around that it was magic that destroyed the world in the first place. And so the way the story came to me is I was actually I was grilling outside and just had my little pack of coals I was burning, and had a stick, and I spread the coals out with a stick, and then there was this there's this bare patch of grass right next to the grill, and I was putting the stick it started to smoke on the end of the stick, so I was putting it out, kind of just drawing in the sand, and just doing that sand. I had a picture in my head of this guy in a hot wasteland, and if you're in South Carolina in the summer, it's very hot, and it was a sandy patch that I was drawing on, and that's what I had. I had this picture of this guy just drawing like runes in the sand, and then the whole idea it wasn't the whole idea, but a lot of it came to me that he was in a a blasted, wasted world in the middle of a blight, and he was the only guy that could save it. He had a secret inside of him that could save the world, and so that's where it started, and then it was the writing process is that long, sometimes tedious process of trying to flesh that out. But it just comes. It's just like just like a strike out of the blue. And
right.
Sometimes I get more in that strike than others. Sometimes there was another one I did. It was Memory of the Lost World that you published a few years back as well. And I had a grove of trees in my front yard, and I just had this picture in my head of a door, this door sitting in the middle of this grove of trees, and that image actually ended up staying with me for years, and I kept asking myself, why was that door just a door standing in the middle of trees, and where did it lead? And so that ended up with that story. But it's kind of like what you were saying, Tony. You have this image, and I mean, Darby, it sounds like yours as well. I love that image you've got. Man, that's a great hook, man. Just some guy running across a frozen, or the snow, or across the field, or whatever you had there. I admire. I love a good hook like that. But you start with something like that you didn't, like I said, you didn't look for, you didn't like invent it. It just just kind of came.
Yeah.
So,
and it's, I think you're being a bit modest because you write narrative fiction and you had one idea. Now all you need is another 1,000 or so to write a book. Script writing is a lot easier than that. So, kudos to you for
well, I'm not sure I do it well. I can,
So
I come up with something.
I don't
know.
Darby figured out that I'm relaying comments from the chat into the chat of our software. So, Rob, if anything comes in for you, you might want to just be aware that might happen. Unless you guys are also watching it on YouTube, then it doesn't matter.
No.
All right. So, so I guess it's my turn. Same question. I brought this up. It was probably with you guys about my Birth Bank series, which has been long stalled, but I was an over-the-road truck driver back in 2005-ish now. It was a long time ago. And I remember where I was. I was in New Mexico, pushing through. I think I just passed Albuquerque, somewhere in there. That is a long stretch of road if you ever had to take that across Texas. Yeah, I'm not going to get bogged down on that too much. But like the thought came, it was a thought first. It was the thought, like, if right now there was an EMP and my truck was incapacitated and everybody else's vehicles were incapacitated and there was no fuel, there was no electricity, my family is in the Midwest. How am I going to get home in that scenario? And thinking about all of the geography between that spot and there, in an event like that, right? It's like your typical dystopian stuff, right? We all know, zombies come out when the power goes down, whatever. So, but after that initial thought, I'm driving down the road, and there's this one scene where there's also like an Ebola type disease in the book that helps make it impossible to just quickly go home, right? Anyway, so in the book, there's a scene where there's a rest area where people are like burying their loved ones, and it's like I'm driving the big truck past a cemetery, and like I can see them in my mind's eye as I'm driving past. It's crazy. So then I came home and I wrote that book, about 156,000 words in 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's a doorstop, man.
Books 2 and 3 have been a lot slower, I assure you, but they are slowly coming. And I think because of experiences like that, I don't personally feel like I can be dismissive of the reality of humans as drenched in story. I mean, it requires an explanation. You got to account for it if you want to give any kind of fair and honest understanding of where you are in the universe. And if you choose to not even try to explain it and substantiate it with some line of evidence, then you're a cheat, dishonest, coward. I mean, or you might be ignorant, like you just might not ever think about it, right? But like someone like Philip Pullman. Do you guys know who Philip Pullman is?
Yeah, the actor. Or?
No. Oh, he is an actor. I actually have a quote kind of ready for him. See if I can find it real quick. I just thought this was phenomenal. He wrote the Golden Compass and that trilogy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here, I actually have a things are gonna move here. Don't be afraid. It's this quote here. You guys, I'll try to zoom it in. After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. This guy is like a dyed-in-the-wool atheist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like and it just makes me. Have you never thought like where it all like comes from? Like, and I don't know. Maybe he has, but like people. Where I was going with that is, it's easy to see why people who are non-writers might not realize this is a thing, or non-artists, we'll say. But for people who are artists, like this should nag at you. I would think it would nag at me.
Well, I think some of those artists, and I'm totally putting stuff in Philip Pullman's head right now. But even from the sound of that quote, I mean, most of those artists are they're the art for art's sake school, and even a lot of them will believe that art is the highest expression of humanity, and this is like the whole purpose of evolution is to bring about artists and storytellers, and a lot of people like that are just so in love with their own genius that they can't see past it, and they would probably be the last people ever to want to attribute anything that they do to a source outside of themselves, even though they probably know for a fact that they're not generating this on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You talked about Dawkins before. I think he's very aware of the truth. He is just he's suppressing it in unrighteousness, first of all, but he is actively trying to deceive other people. And we can maybe have an argument about whether or not he's demonically possessed. I think he is, but, and I don't say that lightly either. But I think for someone to be that antagonistic, there's got to be something underlying that. But I think we're born innately with a knowledge of God, and again we suppress it because we love our sin better than we love God. And when Pullman says stuff like that, it's easy for us to say, well, his idea of story is getting his agenda across. Bottom line is we have an agenda too. It's the other side of that coin.
Right.
Okay.
So, does that make us better or worse? Well, in our case, we believe we're telling the truth. He might believe he's telling the truth. Someone like Dawkins is writing to deceive.
Well, but I would also argue that I think I think there are a lot. I'm going to say I do have an agenda in a lot of my storytelling, and I think sometimes I can distinguish between the places where I put the agenda in too much and the places where I'm just trying to tell a good story. Kind of like there's places in Scripture where Paul would say, "Okay, this is just Paul talking here." I don't think you should get married, but that's not God. That's just Paul saying here.
Yeah.
Sure. And some of those times I put it in are all some of the worst parts of the story at all. And then there's been some parts of the story where I didn't want to put it in because I knew some people that I know would think less of me because of that. They're like, "Wait a minute, you really believe this? How come you're putting this garbage in your story?" Or there's one I wrote about a lot of supernatural creatures, and you really believe these things, how come you're putting this kind of demonic stuff in here? And, but I feel like I have to, because that's where the story's taking me.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be faithful to the story, I think in some way you are going to, for lack of a better term, you're going to glorify God.
Yeah.
So
I remember.
Go ahead, Darby.
I was going to say years ago, I'm just going to date myself and the story a bit. I was going through Campus Life magazine, and okay, I'll say it was 1984, and there was an issue where they were talking like they had these quotes by all the Christian music artists at the time, the more famous ones, and what did they want to say or something. And Daniel Amos was always one of my favorite bands, still is kind of. And Terry Taylor, who wrote, I think, all their songs, had a quote in there, and he said his number one responsibility was to write a good song.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking that, reading that, and thinking in my holier than thou way, wow, don't you have a responsibility to evangelize or something? But as I got older and started writing and being more involved in, I don't even want to say artistic, but entertainment type things.
No, it's artistic.
It's a different show, but yeah, I'll go with that. I just started thinking, no, I think he's right. The more I think about it, the more he's right. Your responsibility is to do a good job that, you can honor God just by telling a good story without having to come to Jesus, altar call in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So all of this actually plays into that quote that I have on the screen. You guys are probably not able to read it because it's so small from your perspective. So I'll read it. This is a quote from Tolkien. He says, the story maker proves a successful sub-creator. He makes a secondary world which your mind can enter. Inside it, what he relates is true. It accords with the laws of that world. You therefore believe it while you are, as it were, inside. The moment disbelief arises, the spell is broken. The magic, or rather art, has failed. And I think this kind of there's a lot of themes in here, which is why I've had it up like this whole time. And you guys have like beautifully just like brought them up. But on the one, so for one thing, you've got the creation of these other worlds, right? For the for the sake of the world, for those worlds, those stories. And this is one of the things that a Thanatos publishing group, which is like in conjunction with Gutenberg Press, this is one of the things that has distinguished us from a lot of the other, quote, Christian publishers that are out there, is when a manuscript is presented to me, that I don't ask, well, is this like good evangelism per se? I ask, is
you
it
sure don't?
I ask, is it a good story?
Yeah.
Because I believe that, in my opinion, that hopefully more than an opinion, but I feel that anytime someone really interacts with these sub realities, they're being exposed to the higher realities, and you can't always. It's like the spirit moves where the spirit goes. You see the wind move, but who can really know? You don't know if guy is going to read the Fight Club story, the one that inspired the movie. The movie was actually pretty good too. I actually like the movie more than the story personally, but I digress. But at any rate, you read the Fight Club, and you don't know that where somebody's at in their life where that shakes and rattles them, and as long as they're not tripped up on some stupid piece of propaganda inserted in the story that makes them get pulled out of it, you don't know where that's going to end for that reader. You just don't. But you do know that if you trip him up on propaganda, he's going to end up back in this world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I actually had an issue with one of that, and it was actually propaganda I agreed with. It was I don't know if you ever read Terry Goodkind, his Wizard's First Rule. I think it's excellent. I mean, the first two books, Wizard's First Rule, Stone and Tears, fantastic. And later on, I can't remember which one it was, but I quit actually reading them. There was this time where he had his character going on to it was like a 12-page monologue about the evils of socialism, basically, and why capitalism was better and private property was better than commonly held property. And the thing is, I actually agree with him almost about everything he said. I was like, I mean, yeah, I agree with that, but that's not why I came here. You know, I didn't expect to see this guy. I mean, your main character pontificating, you know, in the middle of this fantasy adventure. I mean, you really could have given me 15 lines out of 15 pages and just gone on with it. And I mean, but you're right. It ruined to me. It ruined the story. It took me right out of the right out of the fantasy and back to my the world of drudgery that I try to escape.
Right.
So the other thing that I liked about this quote is the idea of the sub-creation. And of course, Tolkien was the master of that, right? Basically creating a whole new universe, as it were, building whole new languages for it, which exists in journals, most of which is not used, but you know, it exists. And the idea of the sub-creation, I think, is a really profound window. If like someone's trying to understand, like if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, you say that Christianity like explains all this stuff, like, but like how, why, where, you know, where does that come from? You've got passages that talk about the substance of things unseen. You've got this is the shadow in the world to come. You have the real thing. Like here's the temple. That's just a sketch, right? It's a sketch of a real thing, and you can't interact with the real thing yet. So you have the reality, and then you have the creation, and then there's the fact that we are made in God's image, which means that we are going to have creative elements just like him. So it actually, the logic of it flows. Like if you know who you're talking about, the God is described by Christianity, it becomes just actually obvious that people would be sub creators. They'd be all over the place. You would be disturbed if there was not narrative all over the place among humans. That would be an argument against Christianity if you did not actually see that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, people talk about you think about Noah, and obviously we have in the book of Genesis the story of Noah, and people will come out and say, well, that's just a retelling of Gilgamesh, and maybe I guess I don't know which one came first. I would suspect that Moses' writing came first, but I can't prove that. But either way, I mean, you have the same story in different cultures, and you have that same story in every culture on the planet, one way or another. And that story is a very cohesive, consistent kind of thing, even if the details aren't right, you know. And we can go out and say scientifically, yes, there's evidence of a worldwide flood. Not everybody's going to buy it. Not everybody wants to. But, you can say that, okay, this is there. You can look at it and look at the details. And there's, okay, is that evidence of the Gilgamesh story? Or this idea that the Lord spoke to Noah and said, hey, you guys are so wicked, I'm going to wipe you out. Get your family together and build a boat,
Yep.
It's, you think it's such a good story that it can't be ruined, but then they make a movie about Noah that absolutely ruins it. So. All right.
Yes, they did.
So.
I think when you do look at it, though, I mean, Tony, I think that you're right, though. I mean, when you have a God that's creative, and then in that first chapter, or first two chapters, it says that we're made in His image. So we are made in this image of this creative God, and so if we do not exhibit any creative capacity, how much can we say we're really in His image? And it's not just the story. I mean, it's the art, it's the architecture. It's just, I mean, the very fact that I'll take a walk into my neighborhood. There's, a guy who's turned his front yard into a work of art. He's got the topiaries, he's got fountains, the way he does the lighting, everything. I mean, he's imitating God when he does that. And so, I mean, I think it's just abundantly clear that we don't, the evolutionist, the materialist, like we said at the beginning, is always trying to drive the narrative by necessity. Like, how did this help us survive better? Did it give us more food? And yet, what we see time and time again is just human beings doing stuff that really offer us no benefit and a lot of work. I mean, people like me who keep deciding to keep churning out stories, even though not only has it not provided me any financial benefit, it has come at a great financial cost to me. And I mean, there may have been a time in my life where it could have afforded me a better chance for a mate, but that time has passed now. I mean, when I felt like I could come up with a nice poem or something to try to woo the women, maybe I could have some sort of evolutionary advantage. But I mean, there's so many of us that don't. I mean, and I don't even count the people that write stuff and never show it to anybody. And it is just because they've got this creative urge upon them. Yeah, no other reason.
They have to write like that. Like I ache if I have a story in my head and I don't have the chance to write it. And that's like the Birth Pang series. Like it just kills me that I just can't just sit down and just bang it out because of all the other things in life going on.
Yeah.
It becomes toxic when it's stuck there, doesn't it?
When it's stuck, yeah. Well, but didn't Jeremiah say that when the prophet Jeremiah, where he's like, you've got this, I got this fire and it's going to burst, if I got to get it out. Yeah.
So I want to bring up another quote, this one from Chesterton, that I really like and make a different set of points here. Well, I mean, these are all connected, but you probably are not going to be able to read that either. It's kind of a famous quote by Chesterton. Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. And I'm not actually, I've heard different versions of that. I'm not sure if that's the exact right one, but like what he actually said. But what I like about this and what I think that it pulls out of us in a conversation like this is that there are things that you can ascertain through a story which can be ascertained no other way. And so like in this case, we've got all these fairy tales, stories of old, and even like, hey, even the Marvel movies, right, with Thanos and stuff. It's you got all these great evils that arise, and then you have heroes that come and slay them, and people love that from an entertainment point of view, but from from the point of view of someone developing the internal conviction, like the stiffening of their spine, if they hear, I'm changing the scene a little bit. Let's say it's a war, and you got to go on the front lines the next day, and you just don't know if you can do it, and your sergeant says, hey, I was there back when such and such happened. We lost good men, but it made us who we are. Like the old Patton line, if you remember George Patton. He says it's probably George C. who actually said it. I don't know if Patton, George. You can either tell your kids that this is his language, shoveled shit in New Orleans, I think, or you went and fought the Nazis, right? Yeah. Now you hear that kind of story, and that does something inside of you that can't be accomplished just by, let's lay out for you now the objective sanitized reasons for why you should get up and jump out of that trench and run. Here's 5 arguments from evolution for family gene trees. You're not going to reproduce, but your society will, and so get out there and do it, right? That's not gonna instill any kind of courage in anyone the way the story will. And there are countless examples of things that are conveyed to us through a story that can only be conveyed to us through a story.
Well, look no further than the stories that Jesus told.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was another Chesterton quote where he talked about a guy fighting a war, and he's wounded, he's shot, he's barely alive, but he's going to say, "Well, damn it, I'm going to keep going because one day we're going to enjoy the benefits of a warm water port." And and nobody does that. Yeah. It's what drove him was probably this national idea, this love for his country, which would have been a romanticized view of Russia or Germany or wherever, and it was that vision that was driving him. But but Darby, you're right. I mean, Jesus was he made points through story that still resonate deeper than the explanation. When you hear the story of the prodigal son, I mean. That's deeper than any explanation you can give. Just hearing that simple story.
Sons.
If you have sons, when you have sons, man, you just almost can't read it without crying. It turns you into a wimp to have kids, man.
Yeah. So I think I'd like to go on record in light of just in that point we talked about master storytellers, people who see a moment and then recognize the way to convey a truth through story. Jesus is a lot better at that than Trump. Absolutely. Hands down.
You think?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how Jesus would reply to his critics through stories. And pick up stones to kill him because they know that he just was speaking against them. But can they prove it? No. Dang it.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I wondered was the Apostle John could he be considered the first fantasy author? With the Book of Revelation, you got beasts, you got dragons, war in heaven. And it is it's a plot that we have not tired of yet.
Right. So actually, before we go further, I should tell you that we sort of got hate mail in response to our podcast last week. Somebody, well,
you must have been doing something right.
I may be hyperventilating it just a little bit.
Was it because I didn't like Star Trek? Is that why?
No, this guy did not like the fact that we called Star Wars science fiction. He was very, very adamant. It was space fantasy.
Space.
And I'm pretty sure the one dislike we got on that video was that guy.
Okay.
Just so you know, to change the way.
Yeah. You got spaceships, you got aliens, you have lasers, you're flying at hyperspeed. I'm sorry, it's science fiction, man.
It's not true, was it? I mean, it is fiction. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's. I see his point. Some people call it space western or space opera too, but
but wouldn't space opera be a subgenre of science fiction?
Well, I would think so. Yeah,
that's what I would.
Yeah.
Not worth getting a Hinderbinder over. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
So I hope you say that.
He technically could be correct, but I put it under the larger umbrella of science fiction.
That's what I told him. I said, technically, you're probably right, but I wouldn't be dogmatic about it.
Yeah. I had a class in college called Science Fiction in the Future, and my professor was a guy who science fiction writers and fans would know. His name is Martin H. Greenberg. And he edited anthologies of science fiction. And when I made a comment about Star Wars not really being science fiction, he kind of sat back and took the glasses off and took me to task. Why is that? And then I had to defend it, and he just said, No, you're wrong. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well, Martin Greenberg has spoken, so we gotta.
It's funny.
Yeah. He was a great guy too, just for the record.
Nice.
So I want to take this. We got about 20 minutes left here, and I want to take another theological turn to it. I hope you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at all my material that I have planned over here. We ain't gonna get to it all. So I wanted to. This one I think is good for. This is like. Let me paint a picture. It's a story, and I've literally thought about writing this story. I'm sure someone has actually done it, to their shame. But I've thought about writing a story of a guy who gets up in the morning, he has a cup of coffee, he goes out, everything's great. Goes outside, he smells the flowers, the birds are beautiful. His wife comes and kisses him on the cheek. He goes to work. Everything's perfect at work too. No problems at work. Comes home, has a lovely meal with his family. There's no dissension, no fighting, nothing. Kicks back with some whiskey before bed, and then watches Johnny Carson with his wife before they turn off the TV and they go to sleep, and then the end. Like, this is a story that nobody would be interested in any way, right? Like,
well, mainly because they're watching Johnny Carson. What decade are you in, Tony? I mean,
Right.
He's been off the air for like 40 years, hasn't he?
He's still alive to me on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are my options here? I mean, look, have you seen the night show hosts of today? No one's
That's
gonna
true.
go.
That's true. Yeah.
Pretty dismal.
Yeah. So anyway, there's no protagonist. There's no person who's out to get him. Nothing. He doesn't overcome anything, right? He doesn't have to fight anything. Everything's just perfect, right? And Tolkien's point in this quote, which I'm going to read just in case you can't read it. There cannot be any story without a fall. All stories are ultimately about the fall, at least not for human minds as we know them and have them. Which I'm not. I mean, I'm not really sure exactly what he means by that last clause, but I'm tracking with him pretty well, I think, up to that. It's the best stories are going to have these characteristics because they're drawn from our life, right? Our actual experience of life. But what we hate happening in our life, we thrive and enjoy and are almost entertained when we watch it in a movie or read it in a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the only reason why we engage with those stories. We don't want them happening to us in real life. But the connection would be to draw strength from those stories, right? To use those stories as ways to cope or grapple with, or it goes back to the thing about the dragon, right? We know there are dragons. The important thing is the dragon can actually be slayed. And to me, there's a latent but genuine link between those realities that I just described and why God continues to let this creation play out. Right? Like, if I were God, when Adam and Eve sinned, I would have just wiped them out and started over. Just okay, that didn't go well. Let's take two. Because I'm God and I know what's coming. You got the Holocaust. You've got children being treated as garbage, disposed of like literally in garbage cans. You can go after the greedy capitalists too if you want. If you want to throw those people in there, they're certainly enough to warrant it. Wars. Just look at current events in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Thailand, right? I mean, you just think about all of that suffering, all of that pain and agony. And in that moment, in that moment when God was when Adam and Eve sinned, God could have and saw those things and said, you know what, we're just going to play it on. Because by the end, the story that I'm going to write through humanity is going to be so fabulous that it'll actually all be worth it. Like it's hard to imagine, but he can do it, right? He can imagine it and he can do it.
Well, the thing to remember is when Adam and Eve sinned, God wasn't surprised.
Right.
He go, oh, wow, that's not what I had in mind. You know, he knew that was going to happen. He had a plan for it. He's had a plan for it. We don't always understand or ever understand or even appreciate it, but his plan is his plan, and he's using it to redeem his people.
Yeah, and I think there was. I'm reminded that reminds me of a quote. Actually, I think it's the opener of Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, however you have her last name, Anna, Anna Karenina.
Please get it right. Yeah.
Yes. I think it opens up with all happy families are alike, and all unhappy families are unhappy in their own way.
Right.
And that's what makes things interesting. Is not the perfection, like that perfect day you were talking about. What makes things interesting is not necessarily the tragedy, but the flaws that we have that we have in creation, and that's where good stories come from. I mean, you know, like Darby, your series is about something going wrong. You know, this imperfection in creation, but that enables heroes to come up and rise above that trial. Yeah. And that's what's, you know, if there's any good thing about dragons is that, you know, for every dragon we have a St. George. We've got a dragon slayer that goes out there and fights and can overcome the dragon, and then in that way become heroic. I mean, that's what makes a good story. And maybe there'll be a day we don't have to tell stories anymore. Or maybe we get to tell boring stories because it'll all be perfect. But however, I'm going to say this with the at the threat of making life more difficult for you and getting more hate mail. But there has been a story written that was just as boring as you described, Tony, and that was My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Because if you watch that movie, the conflict is done like 25 minutes into it.
Yeah.
Like her big concern is that this husband, this guy she's going to marry, not going to like her big fat Greek family. But then he professes his love and everything's okay by like 30 minutes into it. And the rest of the hour is just a wedding with some funny things happening here and there. Right. It's a terrible story. And my wife hates me when I say that, but or she hates it when I say that. But there it is. It was boring because there was no conflict.
It's so funny because, you know, I tend to agree with you just because I'm a dude. But also, the thing to remember is, and I don't know if you do remember this, that movie was like #1 for.
It was huge.
It was ridiculous.
People loved it.
I don't think I even saw it till it was on network, but I couldn't believe it when I saw it because I thought, okay, this is an amusing flick, but
right. It's amusing. But
what was that everlasting appeal, for so long?
I never got it.
It's Stephen James, who's an author. He writes thrillers. You're making me dizzy.
Sorry, it's almost done.
Guy who writes thrillers wrote a great book on writing called Story Trumps Structure. It's right there on my shelf. But one of the things he says is you don't have a story until something goes wrong.
Something's got to go wrong. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I always feel like Elaine in About the English Patient when I tell people I hate Big Fat Greek Wedding because they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate it. This is stupid. She ends up losing her job because she doesn't like The English Patient.
Yeah.
Yeah. The English Patient. Oh my gosh. Like I wanted to die. Like so many times during that show, that movie.
Yeah.
Like just kill me now.
I had the same. My mom made me watch Out of Africa. I think I was like 11 years old.
Wow.
And it's one of my mom's favorite movies, and I still hate it to this day. And I'm like, Mom, I was 11. Why in the world did you make me watch and think that I was going to like that movie? It was so boring. Nothing ever happened except they shot a lion at one point. That was the best part.
Robert Redford and Meryl Streep. Come on.
I think that's what my mom liked. It was Robert Redford, you know. So
John Barry
that was
music
it.
too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the soundtrack was fantastic, actually. Even when I was 11, I'd appreciated the soundtrack on it. It just the movie sucked. So
yeah.
So I'm gonna push back a little bit on something you said, Darby. I don't know if, like, I don't disagree with you, and pushing back is probably not maybe the right way to say it. But like you said, God knew he was not surprised by what happened in the garden, and and he had a plan. Yeah, but I really think that there's so many elements to that plan that are like a story plot. Like the plan was to play out a story, right? And so like in that story, he kicks them out, but he still loves them. And even in that those first chapters of Genesis, you're already seeing they're laying down the precursors of story elements that are not going to be picked up for thousands of years, right? This is like foreshadowing beyond any skill of anyone who's ever existed or will ever.
This is like we were talking about last week with Babylon 5.
Which I haven't seen, dang it.
Hard to you haven't seen it. Okay.
Right.
Robert, you watched it?
I haven't, no, huh?
Okay.
I guess we have to watch it.
The first season is kind of hard to watch, but it lays the story for everything. And the guy who wrote it, Joe Michael Straczynski, had we're back to this episode last week. I hope I don't get in trouble for calling Star Wars the wrong thing. But he had these trap doors for every character in the show, so that if an actor passed away over the weekend, or one didn't come back for the next season, he had a way to integrate that into the plot that he'd already written. And it did happen after the first season. The main character had some health issues and he had to leave, and it completely changed the dynamic of the show. But it brought Bruce Boxleitner on, which was a really good move, and it made the show better because he was prepared for this stuff in advance. And believe me, God has written plenty of trap doors into this world, and he's not surprised. And he knows which door is going to open. So, I mean, it's
one of our commenters just said JMS had to use the trapdoor for Sinclair too. I don't know what that means.
That's the actor, yeah.
Oh, so there's a delay, and so he probably you probably finally said it, actually. Yeah. So we've not actually really answered the question directly, which is, from the podcast title, where do the stories actually come from? Right? Like what is their source? Is it does it come from below? Is it on our own plane, or does it actually come from above? I mean, maybe a mixture of all three in a lot of cases, or some cases. But like, to each of you, like Darby, you saw the guy running across the ice, right?
Yeah.
Where the, like, how? And Rob, you with your little patch of grass, like, is it because we're authors that like those things have more like they register on us differently, or is everyone getting these flashes of scattered pieces of God's dreams?
Well, I think that it's what I'm noticing, and I thought about this when you first kind of proposed this topic, is that first of all, this is something that we don't really control, but we can kind of push it along. You can get people writing prompts or something that'll inspire them. I mean, and this goes back, a long way. Like even the Greeks, they attribute it to muses. I mean, and they would inspire them because they realized it kind of felt like it was coming from the outside of them. Another thing you notice is that everybody can get creative inspiration, but some people tend to get it more than others. That's like the three of us, we're probably kind of guys that get it more than others, but anybody can get it, and it comes in different ways. They can be created, inspired like artistically or through architecture or song, or something like that. And then finally, it's like it tends to be that young people do it more than old people do it. Not that older people can't do it; they just don't tend to. When you talk about creative inspiration, it kind of bubbles up a lot in youth, and it maybe tapers off a little bit in old age. Not for everybody, but kind of I'm talking about like the tendencies to do that. So I think it is something that's got to be inherent in human beings, yet at the same time comes from outside of us. And I'd simply would attribute it to, something akin to a spiritual gift. Is if we have, and I don't want to sound too hokey here, but we believe we have a spirit, and that spirit is perceives a different level of reality than we can with our eyes or ears and the rest of our five senses. And I think for some of us, our spirits are tuned in to these sights and sounds that kind of end up into creative inspiration. And if I were to try to explain it the best I can, that's the best answer I would give.
I think that I think that we all have different gifts, and we can even say that we all have some form of, for want of a better word, artistic gifts. My wife would say she's the last person in the world that would be able to sit down and come up with a story, but she is creative in so many other ways.
Right.
But I think that for me, well, in my case, like I think about music, okay, and music is one of those things that I don't understand. It's one of those, I know what I like, but I don't understand music.
Yeah.
And I can't read it. I can't write it. I can sort of sing a bit. I can't play any instruments. And yet my kids are both very musically talented. And I always think of these gifts that we have as something that we are meant to use as a form of worship.
Right.
And I can't write a worship song, but I can write something else that hopefully will honor God. And everybody has their different version of it. This is not a coherent thought, as I'm sure you're about to comment on, but I think that it does. These gifts do come from God, and He's given us these things. He's given us music, clearly. We can read in Revelation about what an important part of music is in heaven. And go ahead.
Oh, that's what I say. The fascinating thing about music is that there's actually, you have two different gifts in there in music, because you got people who are really good at playing and singing and kind of grasp music, but may not write a single song their entire life. And then you got some people that are kind of like mediocre as a musician, but they're really good at the creative side of music writing. Because the music writing is actually a lot more rare than the music playing. There's actually even today they're saying like most of the hits by pop stars are written by these 5 Swedish guys that are responsible for probably like 75% of pop music today, which may not be a great advocating for their creativity, but it's just that gift it's like two separate gifts almost when you talk about music, but both, to your point, both used and given, I think, to bring glory to God and to be used and to be cultivated to the utmost of our ability. whatever gift that is.
I do believe you've just given us another reason to be annoyed with the Swedes.
Oh yeah, that's right. It may be Norwegians. I don't know if it was the Swedes.
Yeah,
Could be the Norwegians, but
one of those Scandinavian.
But they would explain a lot, so
Yeah.
it's probably true.
Right.
Yeah.
So your story, or that this turn, it reminds me of a story right? It was a guy. I don't remember if I read it or I saw it in a video clip, but he was a conductor of an orchestra, and he was working on his the score in preparation for orchestra practice, and he was on an airplane and he was sitting there, and orchestra sheet music, you've got 30 instruments, right? And the guy that's sitting next to him said, well, like, he's just sitting there, like, the conductor is just sitting there kind of in his own world, and the guy's like, can you, like, hear that all in your head? And he was like, yeah, every bit of it. Yeah, every note. And it's just that kind of we live in a reality where that is possible. That I find that mind-blowing. Just absolutely mind-blowing. I can't do that. Obviously, like, I don't have that gift. I have other gifts, I suppose, but like I can't even, like, fathom what that would be like.
Well, it's almost like being able to speak a different language, though, isn't it? I mean, like, you have people that I'll play a note, like you see my guitar in the back, I could play like a chord, and there's some people that would like, oh, that's G, Yeah. And I don't know. Right. I mean, I know how a G looks. If I see your fingers, I can tell if you're playing a G. But I mean, I don't know what key you're in, right. and some others. But another interesting story about this music genius. I don't know. You heard this one about Mozart. Is there used to be a Mozart, he absolute musical prodigy. Total genius when it comes to that, in the creative and the performance side. And there was this church where they had this real complicated organ piece, had 3 organs that would play, and no one had written the music down because it was like the secret only passed on from master to his apprentice, and no one could ever make sense to write it down because it was just, like I said, such a complicated piece. And according to the story, Mozart goes into the church, sits down, listens to it one time, and then writes the entire score out.
Yeah.
Just from memory. And yeah, that kind of thing, it almost doesn't seem human,
Yeah.
to be able to do stuff like that.
Well, and this is what the play and movie Amadeus are about.
Oh, yeah.
Where Mozart is the
chosen one.
Yeah, but in Salieri, he's trying to be virtuous, but God bestows this talent on Mozart instead. And
right.
It's actually the play, more so than the movie. It's a very spiritual story, and it asks a lot of questions that deserve answers. I was watching something recently, just kind of rabbit trail a little bit. The film composer Ennio Morricone, who was a favorite of mine, the Italian. There was a documentary about him that I was watching, and he's at one point they show this old film of him, and he's sitting at his desk with a pen, and he's just writing out. And it looked almost like he's writing a letter, but he's writing musical notes out. And there's no musical instrument in sight in the room.
Yeah.
He's not plunking it out on a piano. He's sitting there with a piece of paper writing it out. And I just it nearly made me want to throw something at the TV. Like, these people should not be allowed.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not right, because I'm not that talented.
It's not fair.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then you listen to his music and you're like, oh, there's something about this that
So hovering because of that story, now we have to ask ourselves, can AI come up with genuine, innovative, inspirational stories or music? Because some of that music out there that AI is coming up with, you can't tell the difference.
Well, so some of it you can't tell the difference, but I mean, some of it though, I mean, I got to tell you this. I mean, because I got upset when I heard that AI was telling better jokes than people.
Right. And so I went and looked at some of the AI jokes, and what I found was that I'd heard half of the jokes already.
Right.
And so the AI, I don't think the other half I just hadn't heard of before, didn't come up with a joke. They just recycled an old joke. Right. And just like the music, they're maybe arranging the notes in a slightly different way, but there's some like some rules you do like with music to make it sound like catchy. You know, like if you're in the key of G, you're going to follow it up with the D chord, a C, and then your minor is going to be E minor, and that's kind of that always makes it sound right. You know, and then you have the rule of the circle of fifths about how certain notes can go together, and AI can put it that way, but I don't think AI is ever going to create something like Amazing Grace or How Great Thou Art or even Yesterday or Stairway to Heaven. That I don't think they can do. I think they can imitate really mediocre music very well. But I doubt, and at least this is me just saying right now, I doubt I'll see them come up with something truly original that's good. Especially not great.
Yeah.
That's what
go ahead, Darby.
When the Jewish AI starts telling jokes, then they might be funny. They are by far the funniest people. So.
You were sitting on that for a while.
Yeah.
So
perfect timing.
We're gonna wrap it up. I don't know about you, but as usual, there's so many other places that I would like to go with this. But I do. All jokes aside, do want to be considerate of everyone's time. But also, is there? We'll start with you, Darby. Is there anything that we did not talk about tonight's podcast that you'd want to get off your chest before we go?
Well, I don't know. I just think that for the people who might see this and are believers and are in the arts, whatever form it is, just strive to do your best. I mean, we're not called to do a mediocre job at anything. Do everything for the glory of God, and just don't recycle other stuff. Be creative. Like we've been talking about, we have this creative nature that's been gifted to us. So use that and really enjoy it, indulge in it, and glory in it. So,
Rob.
Yeah, I want to just piggyback on what Darby said. I think that's great. Just go out and use that gift, and I want to add to that: don't be afraid to trust it. To trust that gift. I don't know if y'all know the song "Oh He Loves Us," praise and worship song. Oh, how He loves us! Oh, how. Well, there's a line in there where the guy got in trouble because he says, "Heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss." And people, sloppy wet kiss. No, that's not a Christian thing to say. But that's where that's where the song led him, and he should have kept that in there. And I agree. And I hate singing they have a cleaned up version. Heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss, and it's terrible because that's not the way he wrote it. And so I would tell him, also don't be afraid to follow that. But at the end of the day, because we can try to explain where these stories come from, and I have my spiritual explanation, and people might have their others, but I think at the root we have to recognize that it is a mystery, and it needs to remain a mystery. I mean, I approach it like I don't like fantasies that explain the magic system too much, because if you explain magic too much, it's really not magic at all, and there's got to be something unexplainable in there. And there's some things that God reserves for His mystery, and this is one of the graces He's given us. It's one of the blessings He's given us. It's something that He's blessed us with to try to make tolerable the fallen world sometimes. And I think Darby, you said it best. Just use it to the best of your ability. I think Ecclesiastes says, "Whatever your hand finds to do with all your might," and that goes with this too. And just trust that and trust the gift He's given you, and it will lead you to good places.
Well, hopefully, or
hopefully,
yeah. So two things before I do my final monologue thing. One, like if I were going to give some advice like that, I would say, you really can't have stories of redemption of people who are not really that bad, and a lot of Christians are really shy about describing the things the trouble that people get into because it wouldn't be Christian, but that's often the point, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be. We don't have to cast it in a prism of Christianity. It's going to be the same kind of across the board, but a lot of authors are more willing to show the depravity of man. And if they have a redemption story, I mean, it's, a lot better, right? So anyway, and the other thing I would say is about what you were in terms of the mystery is that there's something crazy about life, like just life. And this maybe goes back. Maybe this should be the monologue, but I won't switch over. Like people, the materialist thinks that if you boiled people down into all their constituent parts, and you were left with a pile of ashes or whatever. Let's say we didn't burn it. Let's just say we turned ourselves into slop. I don't know, something grotesque. That you would still have a human, right? You would still have life. No, there's however you want to call it, whatever you want to describe it. If you've ever seen the life pass out of the eyes of an organism, you've witnessed something profound. Where did it go? What changed? Because physically, all the components are there, right? Nothing changed except for now. This thing is like heavy in your arms, whatever it happens to be. And I think in a way, stories are like that. And asking ourselves where a story comes from is like that. To really try to understand where a story comes from would be like dissecting a cat and thinking that you know something about a cat if you've never seen one alive. You lose something when you dissect it. You end it. And stories are often in their own ways. They're living things, and you can kill it to understand it, but then you've often lost the thing that made it so powerful in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess that's the ending monologue. That's it, I guess. Guys, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Now I happen to know that all three of us are going to be really busy for the next couple months. But it'd be great to get us back together again in a couple months.
Absolutely.
I'd enjoy that. Yeah.
We'd
love to.
Lots to talk about. And I'm so glad I was able to put you two together, because I did think you guys would hit it off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Man.
I'm going over to Rob's this weekend for
That's right.
Yeah.
We're gonna make some beer.
Make some beer. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Give me 1 minute to wrap it up here. I am gonna go to this screen here first. Folks, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share this stuff. I'm on Patreon. I have no idea how to use it. Someone's got to be the first. I don't have the first yet. I also have a supporter page. Gutenbookpress.com is where you can buy all of our books. And we will, look up Darby Kern in our podcast list. And in that link, I swear, maybe I should just do it right afterwards. You will find the Jake, what is it? Jake, whatever, his Jake audio drama. I muted you guys. Anyway, we're just going to wrap it up. Sorry for muting you. You guys, everyone, have a good night. Thanks for being here. Auf Wiedersehen.